to another video, guys. I hope you're having a very lovely Sunday. I'm glad it's cooled down a bit because it was quite hot at the beginning of the week. I'm still not going to complain about it though. I'm going to save that for July. So today's video is on walk transitions and how to help your horse be more relaxed, reduce tension, stop them from jogging, that kind of thing. Something that's a real common problem when you're riding a dressage test. If you can hear that noise in the background, it's because this is the 6th time I've started this video. Right, I'll zoom up. Bills, behave yourself, please, with no reins. These guys here, as lovely as they are, keep flying back over my arena. And they're very noisy. So I did, like I say, I've started this video so many times, and every time I start another one, they come back over again. Okay, we're gonna have to work with them, I think. It's such a common problem, isn't it? Especially if you've got a horse that gets a little bit hot or gets a little bit excited at a show. When it comes to the dressage test and, you know, you've got to do that transition down to a walk and they're like, and you find that they're jogging away or they get so tense and you're just, I want to see these aeroplanes. And now curving again straight back over the top of me. And one of the reasons I think we have issues with it is that we neglect the walk quite badly. We don't give it the time it needs and it deserves. You know, there we are working on our trotting and the canter work and all the lateral work and the movements, but we don't actually spend that much time working on walk. So that's what today's video is about. I'm going to show some ways to help horses reduce that tension, help them to jog less. Some horses draw back, and I have got the perfect guinea pig today because Billy, who is my livery horse, doesn't find walk that easy. He's quite a hot little chap and he gets very excited when he's at a show, and then, you know, you ask him to come back to walk and he spends, you know, a good few seconds jogging for a bit, and then once he's in walk he tends to get quite tight, and then he goes very slow and he sort of draws back at you, and, you know, you can't afford to put any leg on, and that's when everyone gets in a bit of a pickle, isn't it? You know, when you can't put your leg on and they literally feel like a ticking time bomb and you're like, how am I going to manage this? This clip, while I was editing, somebody thought it was highly entertaining. Anyway, so the first thing I did, remembering that Billy's quite a hot little horse, is spend plenty of time in walk. So I'm just walking around the arena. He can be a little bit spooky, so I'm just letting him have a look around. Importantly, for any horses that can be a little bit tight, a little bit tense, there is no point going into a schooling session if you haven't got much time, or you're feeling a bit frustrated or flustered, or you're not in a good space, because the horse instantly picks up on it and you're not going to have a good session, especially horses like Billy who are a little bit more sensitive. So the first thing you have to do is just let them walk around and for you to be uber relaxed. And one of the things I like to think about is, you know, when you finish a dressage test, you do that final halt and then you let them go out on a long rein, and your horse does the best long rein walk they can ever do. And yet, literally like 2 minutes ago in the test when you had to do a long rein walk, they jogged and they were tense and they put their head up. And obviously the reason they walk out so relaxed is because you're so relaxed. You've kind of halted and you do like a big sigh and you think, oh, that's over and done with. And the horse feels that sigh and you kind of relaxing, and then they kind of go, oh, okay, well, you can relax now. So it's really important to let your body relax so that they pick up on it as well. I like to add a couple of halts in just to make sure that they're listening before I then start to move them up a gear. So to help with the walk, transitions. Isn't it always the answer for most things? Lots of transitions. So I go into trot, back to walk, and you'll see with Billy, when you go back down to walk, he jogs for a bit, and I want him to stop that. I want him to be much more direct. So when I ask for him to walk, I want him to walk, and I want him to go into walk and into a forward walk, not a tight kind of restricted walk, because he's tense and he's anticipating. So I spend lots of time from trot to walk, and you can see here again, still quite tight in his frame, back to trot again. And literally that's all it is. Sometimes I might walk for a couple of strides, sometimes I might walk the whole of the arena. I just keep mixing it up so that any horse won't really know what you're next planning. And it really is repeat. And even if they come out a little bit hot and you think this is not working, you're winding them up more, or you just have to keep repeating it, and you just have to stick at it, and you won't solve it in one session. It'll take lots of sessions. And the other thing to remember is, don't always do it on a straight line, don't always do it on a diagonal, do it on curves, do it on half circles. Keep mixing up so they don't really know what's going to happen next. Also, I like to keep them away from the fence because quite often they can start to lean against the fence, and that can also make the transitions quite difficult. So always keep away from the fence so the horse has to support itself. Here you can see I've gone back into a nice kind of more relaxed walk here. So again, when you're doing the walk bit, you might want to go to a collected walk, then back to a long rein walk, then back to a medium walk. Like, keep mixing it up so that it forces you to keep your leg on, because that's the key thing with all this, is that with hot horses it's very easy, especially in the walk, to take your leg off. And if you take your leg off, that will make it 10 times worse, because the moment you put your leg back on, they go ooh, and they kind of either jump or they go tense or they sort of chuck their head up or whatever. It doesn't work. So these transitions and constantly changing the rein all helping me to keep my leg on, and for Billy to accept my leg and not to run away from it and not to go tight against it. So again, you can see literally all I did was transition after transition. Again, sometimes with a little bit of longer walk steps, sometimes with just short walk steps, but just constantly repeating it over and over again. Next step is to practice the walk within your canter work, because obviously in a dressage test, sometimes you will do your walk after the canter work, sometimes you'll do it after the trot work. So it's important that you keep working on your walk throughout your whole training session and not just at the beginning or the end. So you can see, just as I did earlier with the trot, I'm adding transitions. So now I'm going into canter, back to trot, then sometimes back to walk. Just mixing up, sometimes doing short steps of walk, sometimes doing half the arena and walk, sometimes in collected, sometimes in long rein walk. Always mixing up so that he doesn't know what's coming next. And you can see that once I started the canter work, the walk did kind of go back again a bit. He got a bit tense, he got a little bit excited, but that's fine because you just work through it, making sure you keep your leg on. And it was just repeating the exercise over and over again. Because the thing is to remember that when you're doing transitions over and over again, the horse starts to engage their hindquarters more. And as they start to sit and take more weight behind, they'll come up through the shoulder, making those transitions much better, much softer, much lighter. And as they make them lighter and they become more free through the shoulder, the horse will open up more, take more of a stride, hopefully lengthen the neck out more, taking their nose out more. And that's when the walk can start to improve, that they can start to move more forward. But it takes time. And you can see, you know, it's not going to be perfect. There were times when he got a little bit joggy again. And if he did, I just repeated whichever transition I was doing at the time. The last video clips here are the final sort of 5 minutes of schooling him, and the feeling I was getting was that when I asked for walk, he did a lovely direct transition into walk, that he was on my leg aid, that when I put leg on and asked him to walk forward and take the contact forward, he did without any tension, without sort of grabbing at the bit or tightening or sucking back or drawing back. And then when I put leg on and asked him back into trot or canter, he did it without any tension. And that was exactly what I wanted. And it just meant that he could take a much bigger stride because he was so much freer and softer through his body because there was no tension and that he was relaxed. I then got a really lovely result with the walk, and the whole time keeping my leg on. So I couldn't have been happier with the final result. That was hard today. Yeah, that took far longer than I was expecting. He was just quite sensitive and it just took time, perseverance, keeping my cool. I actually switched my camera off halfway through this session because I thought this is not going to plan, but I thought, no, I'm going to keep going. And the end result was brilliant. It just took time today. So he's looking rather hot and bothered, also quite damp because it was raining the whole time. But the end result was that when I asked for a transition back to walk, it was really direct. I kept my leg on, asked him to walk forward into a long rein walk. He did it without any resistance. When I re-collected him back up into like a collected walk, there was no tension. I could keep my leg on the whole time. He stayed in a nice connection and I was over the moon about it. And that's all because he was coming through from behind so well. He was taking weight behind, much softer over the back. He was becoming freer in the shoulder, a nice contact. He was listening, and that's all I can ask for. So I was chuffed, absolutely chuffed. Those canter transitions were also looking on point towards the end. He was so much more rideable and relaxed. So I'm very excited about that. I hope this video helps. It takes time, it takes perseverance. We need to learn not to neglect the walk in our training sessions. So make sure we give it the time it deserves. So not just flopping around the arena at the beginning of a session or at the end, actually making sure you take time to practice the collected, the medium, extended, the long rein, working it in within your like canter work and your trot work, and just keeping on with those transitions. You will get there in the end, I promise.